Welcome to The Shed Wireless, a podcast for shedders, produced by the Australian Men's Shed Association and hosted by John Paul Young.
Yeah, there's something for you at the Men's Shed.
Hello and welcome to the Shed Wireless podcast, made in Australia and distributed all over the world for the love of shedding. Don't forget to subscribe via email to be notified as soon as the next episode of the Wireless podcast is released. Head to the Shed Wireless page on our website and look for the red subscribe button.
You're listening to The Shed Wireless with my good friend, John Paul Young. It's a podcast for shedders. Across Australia and around the world, get ready to shed.
Yeah, there's something for you at the Men's Shed.
What a ripper of an episode we have today. Our very special guest is Paul Mercurio, who found fame in the movie Strictly Ballroom, but now he's an MP and the member for Hastings in Victoria, and what a coincidental thing that is. Our shed in the spotlight today, well, Marty went down to the Pyrmont Ultimo Glebe Community Men's Shed, otherwise known as the Pug Shed, and heard all about their bands. Yes, they have more than one. And we meet Bob Hartley in On the Road, who's going to tell us about the natural hot springs and artesian baths around Australia. Very informative. In On the Tools, we'll hear about Bruce Mellinton's 40-year project to restore a 1915 T model Ford. Oh, I love that stuff. And Rip Woodchip is talking to us about retiring and why you need to have a plan that's not just about finances. Okay, let's get into it.
G'day, you mob. This is Ernie Dingo, and you're on the Shed Wireless with my mate John Paul Young, or JPY, or I don't know what other letters we're going to call him. But don't forget, fellas, if you don't have a hammer, use a screwdriver.
Yeah, there's something for you at the Men's Shed.
Special guest today on the Shed Wireless, Paul Mercurio, the world famous Paul Mercurio. How you going, mate?
World famous, that's good.
Yeah, you are. I mean, you may not think so, but you are.
I made a pizza, a brisket pizza for a brewery down my way, and I called it Paul Mercurio's world famous Tex-Mex pizza.
Uh-huh.
And someone said, wow, how come it's famous? And I said, well, because I said so. Because you've now said I'm famous, I'm absolutely agreeing with it.
Exactly. So, just because I said so.
Here.
Yeah. Now, before we, you just mentioned a brisket pizza. How do you get that thin layer of fat off it?
Why do you want to get the thin layer of fat? That's flavour.
Oh, because it just doesn't, it's not pleasant in the mouth, I don't think.
Well, quite possibly. Well, it depends, right? So if you're using good brisket, and I normally use Wagyu, so there's a bit of fat in there. But if you render that out in a slow smoked process, over 8 to 12, 14 hours, a lot of that will just go, and what remains is moisture and flavour.
Okay.
You'll have to come over for my world famous brisket pizza.
Yes, indeed. Now, I'm reading about you. Of course, I looked up your little rave on everything about you on Wikipedia. You were born in Swan Hill.
I looked at my Wikipedia a long time ago, and there are some very weird statements on there.
Oh, good.
And I edited it and sent it off, and they came back and said, you can't edit it. And I said, well, but it's my page. It's about me. And they said, yeah, but you can't edit it. Someone else has to. And I said, but, for instance, even the date that Strictly Ballroom came out was wrong. And then they said I had a restaurant or a cookbook where I did Paso Doble beef enchiladas, and I'm thinking all this stuff's wrong, but I wasn't allowed to edit it. So, but yes, I was born in Swan Hill. That part was correct.
Oh, good. I mean, it's my antenna went up when I read that. I thought, Swan Hill. It's, Molly Meldrum came from a little place called Quambatook.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so does John Williamson.
Oh, from the same place?
Yes.
How amazing.
So, yeah, it is quite amazing. So so you were there until you were, about 9 years old or something?
No, I was there until
That's wrong too.
Yes, I was there until I was about 2.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, born in Swan Hill, but at around 2 or something, I think the family moved to Melbourne, and we hung out there. Moved to Ballarat for a little bit, where my mum's mum was, and then went back to Melbourne. And then mum and dad decided to take a little bit of a break, and mum and the 4 kids, went to Perth in '69, and dad stayed in Melbourne.
Right.
And then I went back to Melbourne in 1981, and that's kind of where dad and I rekindled our relationship and
Sure.
whatnot.
You're into politics, mate. I mean, I don't know. From my point of view, you just seemed like a very quiet, sort of an unassuming type of person. I didn't really think that you would be involved in politics. So what brought that on?
Well, I never thought so either, and my whole life and career is sort of, I tell people I'm a storyteller, as a dancer, as a choreographer, as an actor. I got into TV and did food and, my cooking show and wrote cookbooks and, I've done a whole lot of stuff. Politics was never something I ever really considered. But funnily enough, I was shooting my show Mercurio's Menu down in Mornington Peninsula, and I ended up having lunch in this little town. And I looked at this town and thought, who on heck would ever live in this town? It's just the weirdest place. Many years later, I bought a house in that town,
Right.
and called Tyab. And
Yes, I know the name. Yeah.
and so really, look, it's a lovely little town, but acting work was far and few between, and the TV series wasn't happening, and I had too much time on my hands, and their local council were doing some, things in the community that I was not happy about, as were other members, and I started writing angry letters to the council and to the paper, and I thought, well, that's just ridiculous. Put your hand up and run for council, and so I did, and I won.
Yep.
So that was, somewhat of a surprise. And look, I'm glad to say I was able to be effective in certain ways, but I hated council. I hated the petty politics and the egos and all of that. And during that time, that's when I had pneumonia. And it was actually before I ran for council, I had pneumonia, and I was lying in the hospital for 6 days, thinking about what am I going to do with the rest of my life. At that point, I was, 58 or 7 or something. And I just thought to myself, the acting and all that stuff, and I'm thinking I'm going on council and what's the future? And I very vaguely thought, well, maybe you go into politics, you can talk. And that was it.
Yeah.
Fast forward a few years, I'm on council, hating it, and I got tapped on the shoulder by Liberal and Labor about running for state. And I went, oh, that's an interesting idea, and this is an opportunity that's being offered to me. I should have a look at it. So I spoke to, friends who are Liberal MPs and Labor MPs and independents, and the consensus was I could do more for the community as an MP than I could as a councillor.
Yep.
You get paid more too, which is very nice. But that was certainly not the driving force. And so Labor, I've always sort of been Labor. They're the only sort of political party that truly support the arts, and so I threw my hat in, and somehow I got pre-selected, and then somehow I won. A lot of hard work, but
Yeah.
and look, I just look at it that people sometimes say, mate, why do you want to be a politician? I say I don't. I'm a bloke that just wants to help people. I don't. The politics and all that stuff, I don't know. It's a strange beast.
Do you think that one day you're going to be forced to be more political because of outside pressures?
I think what I'm finding is when you go into the big house, in Parliament in Spring Street,
Yeah.
that's where it's kind of political. I'm on the Labor team. I sit on the Labor side. I vote the Labor way. We're a team. We work together. We support each other. We yell at each other. The Labor people yell at the Libs and the Greens, and they yell back in the chamber. And there's that little bit of a game and entertainment, and sometimes it gets a bit serious. But sometimes it's just being a bit silly and blowing off a bit of steam. But that's kind of the political stuff. when I'm in my office, in my community, I kind of feel that's where I'm just the bloke that here's to help, and I don't care who you are, who
Yeah.
you voted, or anything. My job is as the representative for people who live in this electorate. I'm here. I'm your servant. I'm here to help you if I can.
Right. That's a very diverse sort of an area where you are, isn't it? Hastings. It's
Yeah, well, I live in. Isn't it funny too, John Paul? A long time ago I played Scott Hastings, and now I'm the member for Hastings.
Isn't that funny? I just realised that too when you said it. My
I know
God.
it's just bizarre, and in fact, my office manager just sent me a message confirming my trip to Canberra for a special screening of Strictly Ballroom next month. Isn't that funny as well?
Oh wow.
I'm going up and
What'd you say? No, I've seen it.
well, I've done that, but I'm actually going up and hopefully I'll be meeting with some. I'm hoping to meet with Tony Burke, really, the Minister for the Arts, to talk
Oh yeah.
all things arts for my electorate down here.
Yep. Yep.
So I guess that's a bit political too, in a sense. There's certain
Well,
parts
yeah.
of the game that you sort of play, but ultimately it's I'm just here to help. And the minute I lose that sort of authenticity and become just a politician, then I'm quite sure my friends and my wife and family will tell me to get out.
Now, I mean, obviously, you're still cooking.
Indeed, I am.
Are you the cook at home? Is that
No,
your?
my wife and I share. There's a
Right.
long, we've been married 36 years. And, early on in our married career, we kind of established this thing that we had to cook something once a week or something every week or every fortnight that we'd never cooked before. So,
Oh,
so we enjoy cooking. It's sort of, again, it's storytelling. It's kind of it fulfills our artsy sort of background and creativity. Pardon me. And so, we share the cooking. I might cook a little bit more, but no, my wife's a great cook, and it's her turn to cook tonight, so that'll be good.
fabulous! I mean, it's always the problem around in our house is what to cook.
Yes,
And
but
you do find yourself. I find it's a bit like fishing. You know where the fish are biting, so you always go back to that place. And people say, "Oh, why don't you try that other one over there?" And you say, "Yeah, but that will take my time away, and it might not work out." And I think it's the same with cooking. I think, maybe I'll bugger it up. I'll be better off going back to the the old recipe.
yeah, it's funny because you have your, I'm sure everyone does it. They've got their favourites that they go back to all the time.
Yeah.
But my wife and I still, we don't do it as often, but we still like to cook something that we've never cooked before.
Yeah.
So, when the other day I did crumbed lamb cutlets. I've never done that.
No, you
With
see, yeah.
potato
My wife
dip.
won't buy crumbed lamb cutlets.
Oh no, you don't know. Hang on. You've got to actually. You might want to delete that comment. What do you mean by lamb cutlets? Sorry. Did she buy them crumbed or just lamb
Well,
cutlets?
no. What I meant was she won't buy crumbed.
Oh, good. Not good.
Yeah,
Sorry.
because you can't tell what's underneath the
No,
crumb.
no, you got to crumb them yourself. Like I
Yeah.
had pork schnitzels last night, but I just get the schnitzels. I crumb them myself.
So how do you do the schnitzel? How do you get them so flat like the Germans do with the pork
Well,
schnitzel?
I've got to say the supermarkets are doing pretty thin now, which is good.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I just they're nice and thin, and they're half a centimetre, and pinko crumbs with Parmesan cheese in it, and a bit of flour, and with a bit of salt, pepper, and some cumin and a bit of chili powder. Beautiful.
All right. Oh, no. What about practical stuff now? Have you got a shed?
I do have a shed. I haven't been up there for a while. I've got a bike in there and a TV. So when I get myself together, I go up there and jump on the bike and ride for half an hour and watch, TV.
So you're not on motorbikes anymore?
I've got the motorbike in the garage. I've still got my Hayabusa, which, unfortunately, whenever I try to start it, the battery's flat because I'm just so busy. I just don't get out on it. But it's keeping my smoker company, and my smoker's keeping my salamis, which are hanging their company and in the garage. So
Mate, you're turning into the quintessential Italian, aren't you?
I am indeed. I am
Oh,
indeed.
that's wonderful. So what sort of stuff you got growing in the garden?
Oh, look, I'm terrible. I'm not a green thumb at all. I put tomatoes in, and sometimes I get sometimes I don't. I'm not a green thumb at all in that sense, but in terms of making sourdough, sausages, salamis, pancetta, smoking meat, do all that I do all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Wow. I think I might just grab the car keys and come down for a run.
Mate, you would be welcome.
That sounds very good indeed.
Mm.
Now, look, I was talking about sheds and motorbikes. So, you don't do anything practical, like you're not a fixer up of things at home, or
I have a good mate that laughs at me, and in fact, he came and he's been making salami with me for 10 years. I've been doing it for 20 years, but my mate Pig, that's his name. And,
good. I have this my keyboards player's name, Pig.
Okay, there you go. And Pig, he's been making salami with me, and we love that. But he always laughs because if anything breaks in the house, if there's anything to be fixed or whatever, my wife does it. And it's quite strange because she might be fixing a door or doing something like that while I'm making a cake or a stew. Then.
It's almost the same at my place. I'll be in the kitchen cooking, and Lynette will be out mowing the lawn.
Yeah. Well, I have to mow the lawn, but my wife, she just came from a background where her family life they used to fix cars and do all sorts of things.
Right.
I'm one of those people that measures 5 times, cuts 6 times, and then gets Andrea to do it.
And still gets it, gets it right.
I'm amazed. I mean, I wish I could, because you're talking sheds, and I've been to the men's sheds around my area, and I just look at it and. The way they can do joinery and they can look at something and work out how to fix it. And actually, they only have to do it once and it works.
Oh,
I mean, I can cook something once and it works, but
I'm not very good at it myself. I make lots of mistakes, even in the kitchen. I'm just healing up from a blunt knife wound the other day.
Yeah, they've got to be sharp knives. You can't have.
Yeah,
they cut you better, but they don't do as much damage.
Yeah, that's right. Now, back to the politics for a minute. What's the latest and greatest thing in your political world at the moment?
Geez, it's a tough climate, isn't it, for politics? And
well, it is. Yeah, there's so much going on.
And look, for me, in my community, one of the things that the public transport and public transport everywhere is tough. It's not just a state issue and a Labor Liberal issue. It's just tough everywhere.
Well,
but one of the things here is, my electorate's on the western side of Mornington Peninsula. Mornington's on the other side, and on the other side there's hospitals and shopping and all sorts of things and more schools, but we don't have a cross-peninsula bus service. So, my first year in as a member for Parliament, I got money to plan for a cross-peninsula bus service. This last budget, I got some money to start building infrastructure. I hope next budget I'll get some money for buses. So if I can do that, it's, to have a cross-peninsula bus service up by 2026 is something that people have been calling for 20 years. So if I can do that, I've done something right.
Fabulous. Well, Paul, thank you so much for having a chat with us today. I mean, you've done so much in your life, and you continue to do so much. And I wish you every success with your transport wishes down there at Hastings, Scott Hastings.
Yes, the member for Scott Hastings.
Exactly. It's just fabulous. Thanks again, Paul.
Kind of ironic, isn't it?
If I get the time, I will pop down there and definitely have some of that salami.
Mate, anytime.
Good on you, Paul. Thank you.
Ciao.
It was great to catch up with Paul. We met back in the days of Strictly Ballroom, back in 1992. But one thing I did forget to mention, his beer brewing. Maybe we'll have another chat.
Shed Story. Let's find out more about our shed in the spotlight.
So I'm here at the Pyrmont Ultimo Glebe men's shed, or the Pug Shed for short. We're at this is one of the most tucked away little sheds I've ever been to, and it is actually situated under the overpass of the Dulwich Hill to Central Light Rail. Now, talk about utilising small spaces. These guys have 2 little archways here. I'll take some photos, obviously. two little archways here that they've decked out. One's sort of the lunchroom and one's the workshop. And they're currently tucking away, like I say, utilising small spaces. They're tucking away all the lunch gear. They've just had their lunch for the day. They do it every Thursday. And now they're moving all the stuff away and setting up for the music group, who we're going to have a listen to today. And we're going to have a bit of a chat to some of the guys. So let's go in and have a look, eh? So now having a chat with Tim Crozier, who's on the committee here at the Pug Shed, and also heavily involved with the band, singer, guitarist. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, mate. How long have you been involved with the band here?
Since about 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
So how long's the band been going? How did it originate?
Ooh, it goes back for quite some years before that, maybe another 6 years before that, I think. Around 2015, I think, 2014, 2015, I think they first got started.
Yeah, wow. How did it start? Do you know how it all?
Well, yeah, we have a guitarist, a singer guitarist who plays Spanish guitar. He's a very good Spanish guitarist.
I think I've met that gentleman.
Jorge, that's the man, yeah.
What a guy.
Yeah, and he came in wanting to play a bit of music and got things started. And then it kind of kicked on from there. Other people wanted to come in around, and I think Jorge did a few lessons for people and got things going, as best I know of the background history on this. And then it's progressed over the years. One of our other renowned semi-retired members, Richard Vickery, who was a vice president for some years, he was very good in music as well, and he forged a presence for the music in the shed.
Yeah.
So that helped to strengthen the interest and the support for music in the place. And then various other people have come along, Gary Johnston being one of those. Gary's probably our official MD on most Thursday afternoon jams.
Yeah.
And has been one of the consistent members here for a very long time doing that. And also a good singer and guitarist too.
So when you say consistent members, how many do you are part of the band here on an average?
Well, I guess if we had a full roll-up, we'd probably have anything up to a dozen. Although, yeah, probably the group is a little bit wider than that. But just for the Thursday jam, primarily it would be maybe a steady group of about 6 or 7 most weeks come in for a jam on a Thursday afternoon. We've also got within that group and the slightly wider group of that, several bands that have been created that do specific stuff.
Breakaways.
Breakaway groups, yeah. That term
even happened to the Beatles. They went solo at one stage.
That's right. The term has been used a number of times, breakaways. So one started up called the Pugs, unusual name for the Pug Men Shed. And then I created a second group here a couple of years ago called the Splinters. Nice name to go with all the woodwork that goes on in the place.
Very good.
And now we've actually got a third group that started up recently called the Offcuts.
I love it. Brilliant. There's a lot of men's shed bands out there, some very original names. Actually, I'm going to have to put it out there and so get some of the sheds to send us the names of their bands. Some very original, funny stuff.
Yeah, we might actually have to get those names registered now, or else everybody will be wanting to use them.
Absolutely. You've got to be very careful now, eh?
And there's even talk about a fourth band being created as well. So,
you're just trying to think of a good, witty name for that one, eh?
Yeah, that's right. That's holding it back. But the Pugs and the Splinters in particular are quite well-established units now, 4 and 5 piece units. We do a number of gigs around the place from time to time.
Really, paid gigs or just
paid gigs?
Wow.
And we raise money for either the shed or for charity. And we've done
unbelievable. So you're not there, renting out apartments and throwing televisions out rooms and that sort of thing and going on tour. It's just
not yet. There's been a couple of moments that have come close to that, but we haven't quite done that yet. But it's been a lot of fun. The guys really enjoy it. And it brings them as close as they're ever going to be, in some cases, to being professional musicians in their lifetime. Some of us have had the opportunity to do that, myself and a couple of others. But there's a lot of guys here who have only really started acquiring guitar as an instrument probably inside the last 10 years. So they're still on a learning curve.
And the instruments, are any of them built on site here at the shed?
We have had, the chap I mentioned earlier, Richard Vickery, he was an avid men's shed timber worker as well. He built quite a few instruments. He built all sorts of interesting guitar shapes, some of which you'd never get to see in a music store anywhere. Dobro-style instruments and steel string guitars and all sorts of things. Left-handed guitars, and he's got an affliction which has affected his ability to play to some extent. So he even created a guitar with specially placed frets to help him be able to play the guitar, which was an interesting idea.
I remember when I met Jorge earlier, a few weeks ago. You guys came and performed at the New South Wales Seniors Expo, which was brilliant. That was a treat for everybody. Yeah. And then we also got Jorge up on stage. He just left the crowd silent with his classical guitar playing. Yeah. But I noticed he built his guitar from scratch, but he also had something on there so he could plug his headphones in so he didn't disturb his wife while he was practicing, he said. So.
Yeah, no, Jorge's a real performer, one of our oldest and most experienced professional musicians. Jorge played around Spanish clubs for many years. So, yeah, he really does.
And yourself, what's your background in music?
Yeah, I've been playing in bands basically since I was about 17, with very few breaks in that time. Yep. Started in Newcastle many years ago and then moved to Sydney, played with a number of various well-known bands and various other well-known musicians at different times. I won't name drop, but I have played with a few well-known musos over the years.
Give us one, come on.
Oh, Doug Parkinson, ring a bell?
Yes, there you go.
Did a gig one time with Doug Parkinson as a scratch band.
Yeah.
Don Walker from Cold Chisel.
Wow, that's huge.
I played in Hartley's Battle of the Bands back in 1972 with Don was a member of that band. It's pre-Cold Chisel.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So
that is going back then, isn't it? There you go. Come on, you're letting a little bit too much away now, giving away your age, mate. So what do you get the most out of with the band? Is it just simply playing yourself, or seeing the new members coming along and learning and teaching them and helping those guys pick up a guitar? Like some of these guys probably wouldn't have played a note in their lives, and they've come and you've just embraced them into the band. So
yeah, I think it's all of that. It's nice to be able to bring other people along and show them what you can do and how to do stuff and do stuff better. But it's also enjoyable for me too. It gives me a bit of an outlet for being able to continue playing at an age of my life when, to be able to go and play commercially would be quite difficult now. So, you can do it if you really want to, but it's very exhausting. Yeah. So the opportunity to play occasionally commercially is really good. In the meantime, it's an opportunity to keep your hand in and, continuing to perform and play and practice the skills that you love.
Yeah, unbelievable, mate. Great stuff. So, big question: are you guys any good?
Well, we like to think so. Yeah. Well, you'll get an opportunity to hear a bit this afternoon, so you can determine that.
Well, I hope so. You got a spare guitar and a microphone for me, or what?
See what we can do.
Yeah, beautiful, good stuff. All right, how about we go and have a listen, eh?
All right.
Good on you. Thanks very much, mate.
Get back home. Once there was a way. Get back home. Sleep pretty dark. Do not cry. Work at night. And it comes back home at 5:30. It's the same train every time. And his words still come punctuality. It never fails. And he's all so good. And he's all so fine.
Mate, great atmosphere, great little setup you got here, and a great band. So congratulations to all of you. So, all right, yeah. The more I drink, the better you get. Is that right? Yeah. All right. Good stuff, guys. Carry on. Thank you very much. Enjoy. I'm here with Trevor. Trevor's one of the members of the Pug Shed here, and I was just talking to him outside. We're having a chat, telling me about the band and how he got involved. So, Trevor, mate, good to talk. Good to talk to you, mate. So you're part of the band here, yeah?
There's a big music group, and there are some bands. There are a couple of bands that are really good. They're good enough to play for money. I'm not in one of those. I'm in a learner band, and I'm having a whole lot of fun doing it.
So you're not a rock and roller from way back?
No, I've loved music. I've seen live music all my life, and I still do. But I've never actually played before. I used to sing in a choir, but I've never played or sung in a band before.
So you never picked up? So you play guitar, do you? Or?
Yeah, I play guitar now, but I didn't pick it up till I was 65, and it's a lot of fun.
65 years old, first time you picked up a guitar.
That's right.
Wow.
So
wow.
They say it takes 10,000 hours to get good, so I'll have to live till I'm 85.
Bloody brilliant. Right. All right. Well, you better keep going, mate. You better keep practicing. So every Thursday down here, eh?
Every Thursday, yeah, and every Wednesday morning, and we're also here on a Friday afternoon sometimes. So sometimes we play music 2 or 3 times a week. It's great.
And you play a lot at home by yourself now as well?
Yeah, play at home too, learning about music theory. It's just a lot of fun.
So what's it been like learning this new hobby later in life as you have?
I did when I retired. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had a whole list of things I might do art, learn another language, and one of the things I had on my list was stick my head in a men's shed. And I happened to walk past this one day when there were people playing music, and I was playing ukulele at the time, and there were some people playing ukulele, and then I was drawn into it, and here I am 5 years later having a ball.
Loving it. So what are some of the songs on your repertoire, mate?
Oh, goodness me. I like some of the slightly odd ones. Odd for the band. We play quite a few Beatles songs, Rolling Stones, a lot of Aussie rock, Skyhooks, that kind of stuff.
Beautiful.
Yeah, a lot of rockers, and a couple of the guys in there are really good singers. I feel like it's just a privilege to hang out with them, listen to them sing.
Could be the start of something. You know anything by JPY by any chance? Yesterday's Hero? Lovers in the Air? Come on.
Oh, yes. John Paul Young.
John Paul Young. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
The host, only the host of our podcast. So there you go.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that, JPY.
All right, mate. Thank you very much for having a chat to us. Good on you. Can't wait to hear you in there.
Yeah, cheers.
The Pug Men's Shed Band. That's their Thursday afternoon consortium there. Great set of blokes. I tell you what, it's like the Coven Club in there. Something where the Beatles would play if you come and have a look at it. Fantastic. Great to hear. Great set of blokes, and they're all having an absolute bloody ball. Some of them are great musicians. Some of them are just novices, but everyone is having an equal amount of good fun in there. All right, JPY. Thanks, everybody. Fantastic.
Thanks, Marty. It sounds like they have a band for all levels of musicians. It's great to hear about so many bands in our sheds. As Marty said, we'd love to hear what your shed band is called. Give us a clue. Email us at theshedwireless@menshed.net and let us know. We acknowledge and pay respect to the Yorta Yorta people as the original and ongoing custodians of the land upon which the Tatura Men's Shed stands. Traditional Yorta Yorta lands lie on both sides of the Murray River, roughly from Kahuna to Albury, Wodonga. They include towns such as Echuca, Shepparton, Benalla, Corowa and Wangaratta, and extend northwards to just south of Deniliquin.
On the road, on the Shed Wireless.
Well, after our last On the Road segment, Derek suggested we have a chat to a mate of his, Bob Hartley, who travels quite a bit, and he knows an awful lot about those hot springs. Now, Bob, you facilitate a Facebook group called Artesian Baths and Thermal Stops in Australia. Now, why did you start that up?
Many years ago, we got into thermal baths. I originally started with... when I was doing work experience as a young fella, getting into bore drains out at Augathalla for sheep shearing. And then my wife and I, when we were travelling around, used to stop off wherever we saw artesian baths. And last year, or 2 years ago, in fact, we got pushed south rather than going west for a driving holiday and went through Moree and then started looking for all of these thermal baths. I started looking for somewhere to find information. I could not find anywhere. So if you can't find it, build it and they will come. And sure enough, they have come.
Wow. So totally kind of, you just wanted to know and you found out there was nothing there.
Nothing that I could find easily. Turns out that there is a really good book out there written by a bloke by the name of Steve Lambert. Now, I didn't know about this. Steve and I have got together in the meantime and caught up with this shared love of what this is. And he's now just releasing his 7th iteration of the book. It's called Australia's Great Thermal Way, and it's full of lots of information, but I didn't know that. So we've built this Facebook group, which enables people to contribute, and over 75,000 members in 12 months, which is quite extraordinary. It's a great community. We don't let rubbish happen. My moderation team jump on things that are a bit silly, and generally it's a great group, and we share a lot of information and great photos. It's just great to hear the stories. So it's self-propagating, and I'm now planning my next trip.
Now, are they in every state and territory?
Yes and no. The artesian basin is based here in basically Queensland, Western Queensland, Northern New South Wales, and a little bit into the Northern Territory. But there are other thermal baths out there which are born of geothermal waters. There's stuff up in Northern Territory, Western Australia, South Australia. If you're going inland a bit, there are a couple of baths in Tasmania, and also you've got wonderful tourism opportunities down in Victoria where they've grabbed onto that as well. So, apart from the ACT, every state and territory.
Wow, Tasmania, that surprises me. There's one there.
Yeah, it did me as well, but there's a couple down there. And again, that's that thermal water that comes from geothermal stuff rather than the artesian basin.
Right. Now, what's your favourite? Do you have a favourite there?
Oh, look, that's a... yes, I do have a favourite. And
you don't have to tell me.
No, I do have a favourite. And it changes. I'm very, very fond of a little place called Boomi, Boomi, in northern New South Wales, southern Queensland border area. It's a local community. You've been there, have you?
Yeah, well, I've done quite a few variety bashes, and it takes you to some very out-of-the-way places.
Yeah, well, Boomi is a lovely little community. It does have the public pool there, and then the hot water baths is adjacent to that. The community co-op is outstanding, and I just love going and supporting these small places. And it's probably my favourite at the moment, though everywhere you go, you find things that you love about it.
Yeah, well, I've been frequenting a little town called Gaduga for the last 5 or 6 years, and it was much to my surprise about 2 or 3 years ago when they built a whole facility there for the hot springs there, which was fantastic, because Gaduga, there wasn't a real lot happening in that little town, and now they've got this wonderful setup. Have you been to there?
Absolutely. My wife and I did a trip about 2 months ago. We did 13 baths in 11 days just to make sure we could eyeball them. The primary reason for the trip was to go out to Cunnamulla and look at their new facility there. It's a luxury facility. You pay a bit of money to go there, but just as easily, a lot of places you go to are freebies or a $5 donation or whatever. But Gaduga has done a marvellous job with what they're doing. Where this sort of came to be was I'd met up with a bloke in Tara. I'm a kite flyer. I love flying big kites. And the Tara Progress Association, I think they call it, the bloke coordinating that, a gentleman by the name of Bob as well, he was talking about wanting to bring grey nomads back through Tara and was looking to try and get a thermal bath there in order to lead people from Moree back up through the south of Queensland and head out towards Cunnamulla. So he got me thinking. And so, yes, it's great to see these towns doing it. In Collarenebri, in northern New South Wales, I believe it may have recently had a soft opening, and we're waiting to hear when the official opening is there. Now, Collarenebri is a poor town. It doesn't see a lot of people. I'll bet that we see literally hundreds of people a week calling in just because of the hot baths.
Yeah, it's a wonderful attachment to, like you say, to these smaller towns that really haven't got a lot going for them. It really is wonderful.
Yeah, and the grey nomads are going through. Some people are short of money, others are flush, so they spend money, and
exactly.
It's a great thing to see. Such as the bash does. It brings a lot of money into the community. So anything that this Facebook page can do, or the group can do, to encourage people to come in and get into the communities is really important to me. I'm also working on a project over the next 12 months to gather all of the information that I can around accessibility, particularly disability accessibility, and have that information available for those who have trouble. So it's really important, that sort of stuff, and we look forward to getting more information.
Yeah, and you can camp nearby or basically right next to these a lot of these artesian bores, can't you?
Oh, indeed. We stopped off at Burren Junction. They have a lovely little they've got 2 areas to be there, and it has a gravelled or compressed granite or whatever area, which it rained on the night that we were there, and we were very lucky not to be parked on the black soil. So we got out pretty easily. it's $5 a night, and it's really well looked after. And you've got Pilliga just down the road. The Walgett Council has been really remarkable in what they're doing. So is Moree in encouraging these things. So in Moree, you really need to go to one of the caravan parks or accommodation centres and pay for that and get your access. But if you want to, you can do a free camp 30k down the road at Pallamalawa, which has got a great free camp area. In Walgett, there's no camping beside the bath, but on the other side of town is a free camp. So it's a very primitive camp, but it's there. So there is accommodation, even in Cunnamulla. While not at the Artesian Bar Centre there, the other side of town has got either a very free or donation camp. I think it might be free. So options are available for everyone.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thanks very much, Bob, and I hope some of our shedders can get out there and visit some of these artesian baths, and it's a wonderful thing that Australia has, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who travel overseas to do this sort of thing when it's right here in our backyard. It's just quite amazing.
Well, the next big trip we're going to do is up into far north Queensland. They've got a number of geothermal rivers and whatnot there, and then we're going to scoot across into Catherine. We loved Catherine, the river there, and then up into some of those on the Stuart Highway. So you can travel anywhere and find these sort of things. You might have to look for it.
Right, fantastic. And if you are looking, shedders, artesian baths and thermal stops in Australia. It's on Facebook. Thank you very much, Bob, and we'll be speaking to you again very soon on another topic.
Looking forward to it. Hooroo.
Good on you, mate. Bye-bye.
On the tools. On the Shed Wireless.
In On the Tools today, Marty is talking to a shedder that's been working on one project for 40 years and on another project for 45 years. Over to you, Marty.
Thanks, JPY. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I was down Shepparton Way in Victoria and dropped into the Tatura Men's Shed. Now, this place had a whole lot going on. And as far as the On the Tools segment, I managed to get 3 really good stories from the one shed about 3 pretty unique and not quite so traditional projects. So what we're going to do is break these down into 3 segments over the next few episodes, I guess. Now, the first fella I spoke to was Mr. Bruce Mellinton, who's been working on a T-model Ford at home. I think this thing's about 1915, I think. And his missus was more than happy that he'd brought it down to the shed to get some help to finish this thing off. So have a listen to this. So what can you tell me about this thing? What well, give me the rundown.
It's a 1915 model T-model Ford, roadster body. So it seats 2, and the little dicky seat type thing at the back is barely big enough to carry your lunch. That's about all they said it was useful for.
Yeah.
As I say, I've been gathering pieces for it and assembling it and working on bits and pieces for 40 years.
Have you had to manufacture many pieces from scratch?
I've manufactured a lot of little bits and pieces. I turned that oil cap up, for example.
Yep.
I've made the rear dicky seat part.
Yep.
I've done all the timber work.
So the frame, pretty much the seat part of it, or frame, is timber sort of work, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's basically timber work with panels, metal panels attached to the timber.
Wow. Dare I ask, how much have you spent on this thing over the 40 years?
Not a lot of money.
Your wife's not listening. So
I'm a bit of a miser, actually. I prefer to find things that are damaged so I can fix them, buy them cheap and fix them, than paying big money for things that are already repaired or manufactured. So I get my enjoyment out of doing that. Wow. So I haven't spent a lot of money on it. I think initially it cost me $700.
$700. But what was it? That $700. What did you buy with that?
A lot of pieces, 1,000 pieces.
So it was, nothing assembled like this. Like you got 4 wheels and a motor. That's pretty good.
Oh well, yes.
That's a good start.
Yes, that was a good start, I suppose. And the radiator, not something you'd want to have to make yourself, a radiator.
No.
So the pieces are either original or exact copies. I've tried to copy exactly from original pieces, the bits that I've made. The fuel tank over there, I made that 30 years ago.
You made the fuel tank 30 years ago.
It's acquired some rust inside it, so at the moment we're trying to remove the rust with some cleaning vinegar.
Yeah. So how many hours do you think? How many hours do you guesstimate you've put into this?
Countless. I couldn't guesstimate.
Yeah. Labour of love, though.
Yes. Just making the little pieces that I have made would have taken hundreds of hours.
And what's the plan once it's finished?
Yeah, good question. I don't have room for any of these things in my carport or garage, so I guess it's just going to be a toy and probably sold off.
Start the next one.
Actually, I have another one at home in the shed, a little bit further advanced than this.
Oh my God! Wow. Do you work on that one?
I've been a gatherer and a collector, or as you know, for 40 years.
Unbelievable. So where did it first come from? This tea model, mate?
I gathered the bones of it probably 40 years ago from a fellow up in Hopeton, but it was just 1,000 bits and pieces, no two pieces joined together virtually.
Yeah.
So over those 40 years, I've been looking around at swap meets and buying stuff from swap meets, and I've virtually got enough now to finish it off.
40 years of collecting bits and pieces.
40 years of collecting bits and pieces. It seems a long time, and it has been. Yeah. You ask my wife.
Is she as enthusiastic about the project as you?
Not in the least, no.
Yeah, right. Hence, that's why it's down at the shed.
That's why it came here.
Yeah.
If it had stayed at my place, it would never have progressed, I don't think. I was doing bits and pieces on it all the time, like polishing the bonnet cap and little bits like that. But yeah, I wasn't making progress on the car as a car. I was just doing bits and pieces.
So how long ago did you bring it down the shed?
Only about 3 or 4 months.
You've come a long way in 3 or 4 months.
Well,
I can see.
The motor was seized up, and we freed that after a lot of effort and work. We finally rocked it free, so that was a major project to get the motor. It had been restored about 40 years ago, but it was seized, so we've worked on that.
So I've heard you've cranked it over. You managed to get it cranking over, but you haven't actually started it yet.
No, it's not wired up. The electricals, etc., are not wired up, but we have cranked it over.
So what's your background on to even know where to start with this sort of thing?
My background is in math science teaching at technical schools.
Obviously.
But I had an interest at technical schools, you see, so I could do some work over in the workshops after school finished, and made a lot of little bits and pieces. I made mudguards, I made the fuel tank, I made, quite a lot of the bits and pieces for it over the 40 years.
Wow. So there's a bit of metal work going on over here. What do you got happening over there?
We're working on the front mudguards and the scuttle at the moment.
What's a scuttle?
The piece that sits above the dash.
Right.
So it encloses the dash in underneath, this part here.
Yep.
I've got help with those. The guy that does the painting, as I said, was a panel beater, so he's working on those.
How many other guys?
Particular.
He's very particular. I can see some of his paintwork. So how many other guys are involved with this, or is just
only 2 or 3 of us?
Yep.
Yeah, it's not easy. I've often wondered how I could get more guys involved. Do you put up a list on the board saying, if anyone could do this, I'd appreciate the help? Yeah. I don't know. They're all interested. They'll come out and have a look. And, of course, the question is, when's it going to go? And I thought you'd have had it finished by now. They're the questions all the time.
Yeah.
But no.
So that is the question. When will it be ready? When's it going to go? When we see it down the main street of Tatura?
We've planned to have it done by the end of the year.
Wow.
So there's a long way to go yet, but the pieces are all there. It's just a case of finishing them off and preparing them and assembling them, basically.
Well, mate, less coffee and bullshit, I think, and more work out here in the shed, I think. You're going to need it. There you go.
A few of us are prepared to do the work, but not that many.
That's all right. That's what you do is the excuse, not the reason, right? So let's have a bit of a closer look, eh? Amazing. Like I said, this shed has a lot of unique things going for it. So this is a horse buggy. That's all I know.
Yes.
All right. So
a buggy or a jinker or a gig. I'm not quite sure what they were called. Buggy, I refer to it as. It was just a pile of bits and pieces too. The seating we've restored. No, not restored. We've remade all the top seat.
Wow.
All the leather work we've done. The paint work we've done. We had the rubber tyres put on the large 50-inch wheels. Fortunately, we found somebody over in Glenrowan who did that as a business.
Yeah.
So it's finished apart from a few little daubs of paint that we've got to put on it where we mucked, where we've damaged it in the process of finishing it off.
So where did you acquire this one from?
I bought this from a fellow teacher in Shepparton, probably 45, 50 years ago as well.
Your wife must have loved you, having all this stuff laying around the house.
She did. We did have 2 acres of land then and a big shed, so since then we've moved in onto a house block in Marupna, which is a bit harder,
considerably smaller,
store things.
Yeah. So how many? Like this looks like nearly ready for go. You got a couple of lamps here. This is very.
Let's finish off the lamps.
What's the vintage of this, do you reckon?
Oh, hard to say. There wasn't any identifying tags or pieces on it, apart from Cox and Sons, I think it was, and I've looked them up, and they were a hearse funeral directors up in Namurka somewhere. I'd say around about the turn of the century, but it could be 1910, could have been 1890. I'm not really sure. Somewhere in that period, I think.
And this isn't something you're going to drive around town, I don't see you doing. So what's the plan with this one?
We have displayed it over at the Heritage Centre at Merrigum a few weeks ago. There was a Sunday afternoon heritage display over there, so we took it over and displayed it. But yeah, if it could go into a museum, I'd be happy for it just to sit there for a little while anyhow.
That'd be ideal. That would be ideal, wouldn't it?
It would, yes.
A bit of a legacy.
That's right.
Is there a museum around here, Shepparton?
The Tatura Museum's full. They didn't have any room for it. Yeah. There's a car museum, a big one in Shepparton called Move. That would have room for it, but whether they'd be interested in horse-drawn vehicles, I'm not sure. I'd have to inquire about that. They're more into cars and trucks.
So your efforts are into the Model T at the moment, aren't they? The plan is to get that done by the end of the year. Right. Are you going to invite us down for the first sort of roadworthy test of it? Or?
Oh, you'd be most welcome whenever.
Mate, I think we'll have to. Can I hold you to the end of the year? That's only 6 months away,
no,
mate.
It is. It's not very far at all, is it?
Well, less coffee, mate. Less coffee. And you're out there you were sitting out there drinking coffee and talking. Yeah, well, get into it. All right. Well, show me what I have to do to help out, mate. But thank you very much for showing us around. This is amazing. I'll take some photos, put it on our blog and things for people to have a look at. But yeah, a labour of love, mate, and good on you.
It is. Thanks very much.
Thank you, mate.
What amazing projects Bruce has been working on. If you'd like to see the photos of what he's been doing, head on over to AMSA website or the Facebook page.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
Nailed it with Rick Woodchip.
G'day, Setters, Rick Woodchip here. How y'all going today? I've just come back from the accountant, been going over my affairs and whatnot. He tells me I can afford to live till I'm 90 odd. So I guess I'd better not be planning too much after that, eh? Yeah, I remember when I retired, I was stressing for years leading up to it, wondering if I could afford to even do it at all, thinking that was my biggest worry, the financial side of things. I mean, we owned our home, I had pretty healthy super, and so did the missus. But how do you know how much you're going to spend each year? Or what you're going to spend it on? And or how long you're going to bloody live for? Turns out that was the least of me problems in the scheme of things, and only one tiny little aspect of the whole retirement planning consideration conundrum. As far as what I was going to do on a day-to-day, I just thought it was going to be like one big bloody holiday for the rest of my life. I had a great big list in my head about everything I was going to do and get doing. All the things I'd never get around to doing when I was still working. You know, things like renovating the house, finishing the landscaping around the pool, fishing, catching up with the boys, and working on my respectably lean golf handicap. Well, it turned out the renovations took a little less time than I thought, and I was done within 12 months. I only wanted to fish in the warm months, and then I got pretty bloody sick of it after a few months, 2 or 3 times a week. And golf, well, there's only so much golf you can play, especially when you're popping painkillers during the first front 9 to get you through the back 9. And me mates, well, turns out they all had lives of their own. Go figure. And they all seem to be busy doing their own thing most of the time. So, that left me and the missus all day, every day, to spend together. And didn't she love that? Yep, 52 years of marriage was nearly ended within 2 years of me retirement. And the missus was considering the option of doing life without parole, just to get me from out from under her feet. You see, I never gave a thought about the fact that you've got to make a plan. At least a plan that went beyond the immediate and the initial to-do list and the fun stuff. You see, all my life, I had pretty much down a routine. I got up at the same time, I knew pretty much exactly what I was going to do on a Monday to Friday, and the weekends were just a bit of downtime for relaxing and odd jobs and getting ready to go back to work on the Monday again. So, I guess what I was missing when I retired was not only the routine, it was the reason and the purpose, and also the fact that everyone I was used to conversing with all day, every day on a day-to-day basis was still at work, and all I had was the missus. And the bloke that delivered the chook feed. And he was starting to get a little bit disinterested in me oracles of life. You know, it used to drive me mad when my old man used to hang around the farm like a bad smell and putting his 2 cents in left, right and centre after he retired. But now, I realise that poor bastard was just bored and lonely. And you just don't realise what a detrimental effect that can have on a bloke. See, what we need to do is have a plan. Not just a 12-month plan, but a 20 years plus plan. What are you going to do? What'll fill your days and bring you the same amount of satisfaction that you got when you did have to go to work? And what was it that made you happy, that you could do more of or make a hobby out of? Yeah, with 18 months, I was getting just about as low as a fella could get. And I tell you what, if it wasn't for getting involved in the men's shed, I was either going to go mad or end up dead, whether it be at my own hands or the hands of me missus. But now, for at least 3 days a week anyway, I jump out of bed and I'm doing things that I never thought I would have done. And I have more mates than ever. And the missus still gets a good helping of me too, which I'm sure she appreciates. That reminds me, fellas, I've got to go put dinner on before she gets back from Provis, or it'll be hot tongue and cold bum for me tonight. All right, fellas, catch you next time. See ya!
Oh, that's so true, Rip. So what's been happening in your sheds out there? If you think your shed is doing something unique, please let us know. I'd love to have a chat with you on the Shed Wireless. Drop me an email to theshedwireless@menshed.net. And remember, share your favourite podcast with your shedding mates. Give them a hand to subscribe if you can, or send them to www.menshed.org/The Shed Wireless. Until next time, folks, for the love of shedding.
It don't matter if you work with wood or fabricating metal is the thing you understood. Whatever is your game, everyone's the same. Yeah, we can do it all at the men's shed. Short, fat, tall, skinny, hairy, bald. In the shed, it's welcome one and all. Share the skills you know, we're all having a go. There's a helping hand in the men's shed. shed.